Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. We're Lance and Tracey Smith from San Diego, California, and it's really great to be with you. Lance and I last week had a really big conversation, and it was amazing. We were talking a lot about why did we get into this industry? Why were we so interested in it? And it's funny because my story is a little bit different than Lance's. Lance was searching for an opportunity, but I had all my life planned out. I was going to be a teacher. I was senior year at San Diego State University, and I thought I had it all planned out. But I remember Lance coming after we had a date, and he went home. We were both living at our parents' house, 21 years old, and he came over the next day, and he pulled me up to my parents' kitchen table, and he started writing circles and talking fast and sweating, and it just like he changed overnight. And I didn't understand what he was saying, but I remember that excitement, and I remember him looking at me saying, "Gosh, Tracey, will you help me?" And I'm like, "Of course." I mean, isn't that how it is when you're in this industry? Someone comes and talks about hopes and dreams and aspirations, and their life is moving on. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I loved it." And so, yes, I kind of jumped in, but my heart wasn't in it. I didn't understand what was in it for me. And so I went to a few meetings with him, and I laughed at the jokes, and I drank the punch and ate the cookies. I don't know if you can relate to me, but that's kind of how I got into this industry. But I remember Lance looked at me and he thought, at least I think he thought, gosh, she's not really with the program. And he made a really critical decision one night. And it's pretty funny. He picked me up after school. He said we were going on a date, but it was really a meeting. But he said, "Hey, let me take you out to dinner." I'm like, "Well, dinner, that's awesome." And so he swung through the taco shop, if you know San Diego. He got 99-cent roll tacos and a big gulp. That was a big soda pop. And he took me, it was a really big decision. He took me up to a mountain called Mount Helix. And this mountain overlooks all of the ocean, and behind you, it was in the winter, you could see snow-capped mountains. I mean, it just has the view, right? And of course, on any mountain like that, there are beautiful homes. And so he said, "Get out of the car, let's go sit on the ledge, and we'll have dinner." So we did. We sat down on the ledge, and we were seeing, as you're at the top of the mountain, you're looking down at all these beautiful estates. And he said, "Tracey, do you know why I'm interested in building this for our future?" That was the first time we were dating. That was the first time I heard ours. So I was into this. And then he said, look at this house right here. And I promise you, there was a beautiful house, it had beautiful cars. And in the backyard, you could see a pool and a couple in a hammock and the kids playing on the side. And it was amazing. And he goes, "That's why I'm going to build this business. I want a lifestyle like that." And you know what? That got my head to my heart for this business. And that meeting was really the first meeting I ever attended, because I was interested then, because I could see where we were going to build something incredible. And, that was the start. And so we look back, after last week, we were really talking like, why would two 20-year-olds really get involved? And I have to tell you, that's why. He built this big dream of how our life was going to be. And did it happen overnight? No, it didn't. But you know what? We kept with it, and we were consistent, and we built an amazing business, and we still do today. And we love this industry for it, because it gave us that dream. We worked for it, but it enabled us to have that opportunity. So that's what I wanted to start off with tonight.
Yeah, our topic tonight, and it's an honor to be on here. It was great to hear Kim and Les Brown last week. It's kind of hard to follow that one, but it's great to be here with you guys. It's always an honor to be able to share our experience over all these years. I'd love to say that that conversation that Tracey just said about going to Mount Helix, that was a few years ago, but that was, I think, 37 years ago. It was a long time ago. A lot of exciting times since then. But what we wanted to talk about is really important to us, and we shared this just the other day on one of the huddle calls with a handful of leaders on there and we wanted to share it on here because I think it's really important at this point to really know what it is, or the question I want to pose to you is, what is it you're selling? We're involved in an industry, and a lot of us come from different backgrounds, and very few of us actually come from sales backgrounds. As a matter of fact, salesmen often don't do really well in our industry because they come in and they look at somebody as as a sales and a commission, and it's a one time and it's a one night stand type of a thing, and they sell you something and they're gone, and they come over here, and this is a relationship business. This is, you're not selling a product. You're actually saying, look, we want to lock arms and go build something amazing together. And so it's more of a marriage, not a one night stand. And so my question, and I'm going to pull up I put together a PowerPoint real quick. I'm going to run through this. We got a lot of things that we could talk about when we go meet people. We meet people in the last 38 years, and I know that this is a leadership call. And those of you, even if you're brand new, you're going out there and you're saying, what do I share with people? What do I talk to them about? And some of them, it's natural. They'll try a product, and they go out there and they talk about the product they're excited about. Some of them, like Tracey mentioned, you got excited about the dream, and that's what it is you talk about. And so I wanted to kind of narrow it down and really bring it into today's economy and where we're at, and really what I think to lead with. And again, in leadership calls like this, we always walk a fine line, because if you've got an upline that you're working with or a support team you're working with, you always work with them as far as a specific strategy. But I wanted to take more of a macro approach to this, and kind of share with you my thoughts on our last 38 years in the industry and what worked at what different times. And so, from what are you selling? Let me put this up here. And I'd like you all to screenshot this or write this down, because this is a really critical one that a lot of people miss. Selling is not convincing people to buy a product or buy a service or buy something. It's about helping people solve their problems. If you look at your job, and if you look at what we do as solving people's problems rather than selling a product or selling an idea, you're going to get a lot farther out there, because people out there, naturally, what they'll do is they'll spend lots of money on things that help them solve their problems. They won't spend a lot of money on things that they really don't think are going to add value to them. And so, again, mark this one down. This is really critical. It took me probably 2 or 3 years. I'd walk into people's houses. I'd look at them with like a dollar sign in their forehead. I'm going to get these people in. We're going to go. And if you've heard my story, over the first year or two, we had people quitting faster than they were getting in. And a big part of it is because I wasn't helping them solve their problem. I go there and tell them what my dream was, what we were going to do, and we drag them along with us, and that really didn't work. And so, again, we're in the business of solving people's problems. So in the 38 years that we've built this, we've seen all the good times, the bad times. We've gone through good economies, we've gone through bad economies, and we have each one of them is a little bit different. Good economies are fun to build in, because people, if you look at a good economy, people have more disposable income. They kind of have they're getting their dreams and goals. A lot of them are having success at work. They're getting new cars. You can always tell a good economy because there's a lot of new boats driving down the freeway, on a Wednesday. And so, that's kind of good. But a lot of those, people have more disposable income, so they'll buy products. And certainly in a good economy, 3 is going to just flourish in a great economy, because we've got some incredible products. When you're doing good and life is good and finances are good and all those things are good, people get real concerned about their health, and that's what they focus on. The tough part about building a good economy is people really aren't looking. If you go in a good economy and they got the person who just got a new house or new boat or new car or new promotion, a lot of times those people aren't looking. They think, I'm doing great. Why would I get involved and do something else? And so a good economy gets more volume for you is from individuals, because they have more disposable income. But it's a little tougher to sponsor because a lot of them aren't looking. Now, conversely, on a bad economy, people have less disposable income, and so they tend to buy less. They're struggling more financially, but they're looking, and they're looking because they want to have they want to have something else. What they're doing isn't working. They know that, and so it's in a bad economy. They don't have as much money, so they buy less volume, but it's easier to get people involved. And so if you're building a big team, a bad economy is actually the faster time to build it, to be honest. And I put here the looking zone because my friend Colombo de Salvador, our partner here, he did a cassette tape or a CD. That's how old we are. Called the looking zone, and he is so correct that the people go through their life like they have shutters on, and sometimes the shutters are open and sometimes the shutters are closed. And again, like I said, the person who just got a new house, a new car, a new promotion, they just got married, they just had success, they got a promotion, they got, they had some type of a win in their life. A lot of times you'll talk to those people and they're not necessarily looking for an opportunity. And the same is true of somebody who just lost their house, they lost their spouse, they, or got a divorce, or they just got fired. A lot of times those people aren't looking. And I know a lot of people beat themselves up because they talk to somebody they think would be good. And they don't get involved. But what you have to realize is they're probably not in the looking zone. Maybe they're on one extreme of those. People who are having a lot of success, it's hard to get them motivated. And people who are in a nightmare, it's hard to get them to dream. I mean, it's hard to build a big dream when you're living a nightmare. And so with those people, we build relationships with those people, and we get them involved over time. When they hit that looking zone area, that's really when it starts to take off. And so the question is where we are right now. And really where we are right now is, and this could be argued, but where we are, from our experience, I think we've had a really bad economy the last few years. COVID hit us. That was really tough on everybody. Certainly out in here, California, where we got locked down probably a year longer than everybody else. Business, just an example. I have somebody who just joined our business who had a lot of successful restaurants in 2019 and lost all of his restaurants in 2023. And he wasn't looking back then, but now he's looking, and so he got involved with this. And so, COVID really wiped people out. Right now, there's a statistic that says 64% of the people in America are living from paycheck to paycheck, and that's really a tough one for people that are struggling. They're not going to go out and spend a lot of money. And I know in three, just to kind of bring it back to us. I know a lot of people are leading with a product right now, and they're wondering why people are ghosting them. And the problem is, if you're talking to those 64% that are going from paycheck to paycheck, it's a money excuse that they've got. They're afraid to call you back because they're broke. They can't pay the rent. They can't keep the lights on. And so having a product doesn't necessarily make sense. And I'll tie that more in a few minutes. And the people have got record debt. And so that really, again, I don't sit there and hold back on a good economy, bad economy. I built through all of them. But the honest truth is, if you could actually pick a time to go build it, what you'd want an economy like we're at right now, where we're coming out of a bad economy, where a lot of people can get in. And then as the economy improves, all those people in your group will have more disposable income, which is, we built some massive, massive teams over our careers. And that's really where a lot of it came from, is putting a lot of people in on the bad economy and then pairing it up with volume on the good economy. And so let's go to the next. We did that one. So what I did is I went ahead and I put an AI search in, and I'd like y'all to look at this very seriously, because this is when it comes to what it is you're selling, this is important for us. And what this is 2025, the top concerns for America. What is it they need? Number one, obviously, because it's a bad economy, is financial security. They want to achieve their financial security. They want to reduce their debt. They want to save for retirement. People are broke. And that's the number one thing this year that it started off. Number two is physical health. And it's interesting because in a good economy, physical health goes, and this has switched over for the last bunch of years, as long as I've tracked it, where if it's a good economy, physical health is number one. And if it's a bad economy, financial security is number one, or stability is number one. And so those are the two biggies. Those are the two ones that are out there. And physical health, obviously, that goes right up our alley with the products that we've got. And I know a lot of you are leading with products, and so you got a chance to hit them with number two. Number three is mental health. They want to reduce stress and anxiety, that sort of thing, depression. Number four is career growth, securing a job, or having job stability, advancing professionally, finding fulfilling work. That's really kind of where we've come in. They want to build relationships. They want to strengthen family ties. They want to have new partnerships. They want a work-life balance. They want to have personal development. People want to grow, and they want to be better today than they were yesterday, and that's always a good thing. And we have a solution for that. Housing, that's one that's kind of off of our grid, but if you go build a business, you have the income to afford housing, and and that's pretty exciting. So the next one, number 9, is community and social impact. I'll talk more about that in a minute. And the last one is leisure and travel. And the reason why these are important is because of this. So I'm going to go ahead and show you this. Or share this with you, that if the only tool you have is a hammer, you tend to see every problem as a nail. And what you've got to realize is, if we're in the business of solving people's problems, when we go up to them and we talk to them, what we need to do is find out what they're looking for. A question I've used for decades is, what is it you'd like to have in life that you're not getting right now? Or what is it you'd like to do? What is it like to do for fun? And a lot of times they say, well, I used to do this. And, if you could change your life right now, how would you plan it out? What would you design it to be? And the thing is, if you go into this industry and you talk to people, if you want to increase your sponsoring rate up to, not just double or triple, but 10, 15, 20x, if you can walk in the door and find out what their problem is, and you can show them how we can solve it, you're going to have a lot better retention than if you go out there and just do this. And I'll give you a couple of stories in just a minute. So here's our solution. These are our 4 hammers. The first one is financial opportunity. Obviously, we've got what I believe is the best compensation plan in the industry. We've got, I think, a 35 to 40% payout. I don't know what the exact numbers are right now, but I know it's just an amazing financial opportunity. And what's amazing about our opportunity is people don't have to quit their jobs. They don't have to give up, the security of a job. They can do this in their part-time. They can do it where they want to do it. They can do it with who they want to do it. They can do it when they want to do it. And that ability and that freedom is what really drew me to the industry. That was the number one thing for me, is I wanted to be able to wake up when I wanted to wake up and do what I wanted to do. And if I wanted to, go on vacation for a week, I didn't want to have to ask anybody. And so we've got a great financial opportunity, obviously. And number 2 is the products. That's a hammer we've got. And I know a lot of you guys, I'm connected with a lot of you on social media, and I see a lot of your posts, and a lot of your posts are about, the products we've got. And I think that's fantastic. We've got the best science out there. And in my entire career, we're really representing the best products backed by science, third-party tested that we've ever had. And so that's awesome. Number three is the association. We've got a group of leaders that I think are the very best in the industry. I think if you were to take an all-star team of who's who from around the world, we got them here. We come from different backgrounds, all of us, but the leaders we've got here with Kim and Samson and the Roushes and all the 6 stars and the 5 stars and the 4 stars. I mean, we just got an amazing team of leaders that really want to do the right thing for the right reasons, and we want to build something amazing. And fourth is for the cause. People will move for the cause, and I loved our last event. Called Kim and Daniel. The day we got back from Salt Lake City, and I told them it was the most heartfelt event I'd ever been to. And a big part of it was the Love 3 addition that we added to it. And I'm very excited about where that's going to go and what we're going to be able to do in the future. And then you look what we've got. With the financial opportunity, you've got 1, 4, 6, 8, and 10. If you're looking at those top 10 things, those all really go into the financial opportunity. And so if you talk to somebody who's a 1, 4, 6, 8, or 10, I would lead with the opportunity, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for financial stability. They're looking for career growth. They're looking for, they're looking for the things, housing. They're looking to create an income. Number two is the products. And that's number two is the physical health. But the reason why I wanted to show you this one, the importance of it, is because if all you do is lead with the products, out of all those 10 things that are up there, if only physical health is what you're leading with, you're going to miss everyone who's number one is the other 9. So you're going to miss 9 out of 10 people that you're going to talk to if you're just leading with the products, because the problem that we're trying to solve, we're trying to figure out what the problem is. And I know that, I love the stories of all the testimonials of people that, they took the product, they made a difference. But I do know that our opportunity is a lot bigger than that. We have 4 things that we can lead with. And so even the association is actually bigger than the product category. It's 3, 5, 6, and 7. If you take the top things people are looking at. And number 4 is the cause, which is the community and social impact. That kind of rounds it up. And so my question for you is this, and this is more of a strategy, is what is it the people you're talking to, what is it they're looking for? Tracey told you, we got involved, we were young and broken, and we couldn't afford anything. If you would have led with a product, I'd looked and said, you know what, that's too expensive. I probably would have ghosted you. I probably would have never called you back. And I thank God that the person who talked to me led with the opportunity. And again, I'll share more about that in a minute. But think about this as you go out there. And it's people leave clues. It's fun with social media today. It's almost like cheating, because I can go ahead and look at my prospect who I'm going to talk to about the plan. I can jump on their page. I can see what's important to them. They got a couple of kids. They like to travel. Whatever it is, I could figure out within about 5 minutes of looking at.
If they've had experience.
If they've had experience in the industry. No, yeah, there's so many things that it's like my cheat notes. I just kind of look and go, okay, well, yeah, they went to the Bahamas. Okay, they like to cruise. When's the last time you were able to do that?
For free.
A lot of them have got their big titles in there. Okay, well, that's kind of important to them too, So I use those as cheat notes, but keep this in mind every time you talk to somebody, because if you miss them, if you go out and talk about financial stability, I had my friend Mike Matheny, he talked to me, he says, I got this guy, he won't get in. And I said, tell me about it. I said, well, he said, well, the guy's a billionaire and he owns a bunch of different companies. I said, what'd you lead with? He said, I led with the opportunity. I said, well, that was the wrong thing to lead with. You got to lead with the cause. Maybe, hey, are you going to just let your family inherit this? You want to teach them to grow a business? I mean, there's ways you can go around that, but you just got to make sure that you lead with the right thing based on the product or the prospect that you're talking to. So I hope that makes sense. So product or opportunity. So let me just put it in a dollar figure amount. Ted from Business at Home put a post the other day, said, would you rather have 1,000 people doing products or 10 brand ambassadors? And a lot of people are like, oh, you got a product. Products are going to come naturally for all of us. If we're out talking to people, we have great products. We're going to do that. And that obviously needs to be something that we do. We've got that. But if you go out there and your focus is to get a customer, and they got one product a month. I mean, Tracey's got a gal that ordered collagen about 5 minutes ago. I got it $17.50.
I got
you got it. I got the email. I got the email, and I get the check too, which is good. But I got the $17.50 that goes in our account, and so we're gonna make about $200 a year if this person stays on collagen for the year. Okay, is that a win? Yeah, that's a win. If you get 10 of those, you're gonna make $2,000 a year. If you get 100 of them, you'll make what is that? 20,000 a year? Yeah, 20,000 a year. I mean, you can do the math from there as far as what it does. And Tracey, Tracey gets them naturally because she talks about things she's tried that she likes. She's got a pretty good audience, and so we've always had hundreds of customers, no matter what it is we do. But we do that as a byproduct. That's not what we focus on. If you focus on just the customers, you're gonna be frustrated that you can't build a big team because very rarely do customers rally up. Sometimes they do, but a lot of times they don't. If you get up to somebody who's involved in brand ambassador and they're doing 60 points a month, depending on their space, you're going to make maybe $100 to $500 a year, depending on what they're, which side they're in and what your business is structured like. If they're just doing 60 points a month. But if you get a leader, let's say you get a 6-star, and let's say that 6-star, let's say you've got a big leg and they're in the big leg, and you're at least a rank where you get paid on the first generation. If you sponsor a 6-star at the big leg, you're looking at 5,000 to 10,000 a month on just check match. Okay, if they're in your lesser leg, I mean, if they're in your lesser leg, and again, it depends on your structure. If you have a big leg and you have not much of a lesser leg, you put a 6-star over there and they go 6-star, you're looking at $10,000 to $35,000 a month. And so my answer, and I didn't answer Ted back, but here's my thought is, yeah, I'd like to have 1,000 customers. That would be a great thing. But I'd rather have 10 good leaders, because me and those 10 good leaders could go out there and put in 1,000 customers month after month after month after a couple of years in this thing. And we're doing that now with 3. We're a new company, but I'm telling you, there's going to come a point where we're putting 1,000 people in every hour, every couple of hours as we build this thing out and go around the world. And so I'm excited about that. But remember what you're focusing on. So I have 2 pictures that are here. One is the, what did they call the Panera Towers? Anyways, the towers there in Kuala Lumpur. I have a picture there with Linda and Tracey and Holly. It was great to go out there and spend time out in Kuala Lumpur for the opening of the office out there. But I usually use an example a long time about, see that connection between those 2 buildings? And it was shared to me years ago about, if you have 2 buildings that are real, high skyscrapers, and there's a beam across them, and you were on one tower and you were asked to walk across to the other tower. And let's say that beam was only 6 to 8 inches wide. What would it take to get you to cross that beam? Now, if I say, would you do it for $1,000? If you look at that tower right there, that's a really high tower. Let's just say that's that beam. That's a long ways down. You'd have a lot of screaming. You'd probably have to catch your breath a couple times on the scream on the way down. You probably wouldn't do it for $1,000. You probably wouldn't do it for $100,000. You'd have to have a why so big that you'd go out there and do this. And our business obviously isn't like crossing a tower and having the threat of death. But you're kidding yourself if you don't think this doesn't take time and effort and energy. It does take time and effort and energy. And you've got to get somebody to come across that beam. You've got to get somebody to walk across. And again, if it's $1,000 or $500, they probably aren't going to get involved and really get engaged. And for Tracey and I, you've got to have a why that makes you cry. Yeah. And for me, the why was, I wanted to be financially free. I wanted to pay off our bills. I wanted to have, no more creditors calling me. I wanted to be in a spot, where we could financially, have the freedom to be able to do what we wanted to do, go where we wanted to go, and not have to ask anyone for permission. It has been 35 years since I've had a W-2 job. And so really, I mean, she gets to tell me what to do and vice versa. So it's awesome being a partner and being able to live like that. But you've got to, the next picture over there is an eagle with a bunch of chickens. If you're out there just kind of looking at chickens, I loved Samson. We talked about the cat, the cat that was meowing all the time. But the truth is, you're looking for the eagles that are out there. And so if you keep that in mind, that if you go up to an eagle, if you go up to somebody who could have the potential of being a really good leader, and you just say, hey, this kinetic will give you more energy, you're going to miss what it is, you're going to miss the solution to the problem that person has. And so I want you to think about that as you move forward and you build this business. And so that is kind of it from sharing the screen. I hope I kick back up. Actually, exit it by itself. That's interesting. I want to give you a couple of stories. I don't know how much time I've got left. I want to give you a couple of stories and then give you a couple of takeaways. I want to tell you 4 quick stories. The first story is the story of Kim Wee. I can't tell you how excited, we've known Kim since 2000. I've known of her since before then, but I knew of her. I met her the first time in 2015. Got a chance to watch what she's done. She's built an amazing organization, an amazing company in our previous platform, built an incredible business in 100-something different countries. And we are very, very blessed to have Kim over here working with us. And we're blessed to work with her. And there's no leader. I mean, I just feel grateful every day that we have somebody who's is a unicorn, really. I mean, that's what I shared in Kuala Lumpur, that really she's a unicorn in our space. She's made over $100 million of the last platform. She just has a gift that's really rare out there. And so for Kim, it's kind of cool because she talks about, the greater good, and she talks about the calling and all that kind of stuff. But if you look at actually building, I mean, there's a certain percent, there's the number 9s back there that will kind of kind of grasp towards that want to make a difference in their communities. But for me, the only calling I had back when I first saw this thing is my call was from the credit cards because they wanted their money back, and I was broke, and the only charity I could wanted to give was myself because we couldn't even keep our cars running, and so for and I've watched Kim go build a business, and I understand that she gets that part of it, and I love the fact that she can keep the high level. Hey, we're going to change the world and make things better. But the truth is, people want to get paid. They need to make some money, and so focus a lot of your attention on the things that really are the one and the two, the financial health and the physical health. Those are the two that really are the biggest drivers that will get people to walk across that beam. I was telling you about that beam story. A lot of people wouldn't do it for $1,000. A lot of people wouldn't do it for $1 million. But if you said it'll save your family if you walk across the beam, there's another story. That's the movement that will get them to move, and you've got to focus on those big things that will get them to move. Nilbert is the second story I want to share with you because I love Nilbert. He lives just down the road from us, and he's a great guy. We'd love getting to know him. He's doing a great job, and he's a great teacher. But he tells this story about he got involved because somebody shared the product with him, and he was sick. He was over in Asia, I believe it was, and somebody gave him the product.
He was in Israel.
He was in Israel, and somebody took the product, or somebody gave him the product. He noticed the big difference, and that's really what got his attention. He came over, and he ultimately is building a business, and he's doing a great job over here. And we love being partnered with Nilbert. But I would dare to say that even though he got involved with the product, if you asked him why he's building it right now, he's building it because he wants to create the income and the freedom. He's done a great job in the service. You guys know that story. But here's a way where he can finish strong financially, and that I would guess. We can't add him on this call right now, but my guess is that's what he would say is his purpose right now. So for me, it was different. Tracey told our story. We were broke. I told Tracey that she was going to have a lot of nice stuff if she married me, and she said yes, and I was broke, and so I knew I needed to do something. I knew I needed to put something together, and so I had my cousin come down, and he shared with me this idea. He'd actually been to somebody's house the day before, and I'm going to tell you the story he shared with me. He actually came down to show my parents the program. My parents walked out of their own house. He walked in because they thought they knew what it was. And he didn't really know what it was. There's some 3x5 cars, but I'll tell you what he said. He said, I was at a guy's house last night, Lance, he said, that was 30 years old. This guy that's 30 years old, he was a parts manager up in Ogden, Utah, and he worked for one of the big dealerships that are up there. And he got involved in business a couple years ago, and he just retired. He's making a 6-figure income, just bought a motorhome, and he's spent the whole last summer traveling with his family. And I said, the dude's 30 years old and he's retired? He said, yeah, the dude's 30 years old and retired.
And a motorhome.
And a motorhome. And I go, all right. I said, I'm in. I said, and then I looked at him and I said, so what are we selling? The selling wasn't even part of it. Now, if he would have come down and given me a product, it would have been gone. I would have said, hey, that's nice. I'll try this. And just like you walking down the mall and somebody saying, hey, try this product. It would have been just like that. I would have walked. I would probably throw it in the next trash bin and I'd have been on my way. But
we didn't even know how to do laundry.
He didn't even know how to do laundry. Yeah, exactly. And that's really what the product was back then when we got involved. But it excited me enough that I got in a car, drove up a couple months later, or a couple weeks later, got a chance to meet this 30-year-old who ultimately made probably $75-80 million in the industry. Was a great friend of ours for lots of years, retired now. But that is what got me. That story is the one that got me. And so I'm going out there and we build this thing. And the fourth story is I'm going to tell you is about my brother-in-law, Gerald, and my sister. Now, my brother-in-law, Gerald, he was a doctor. And so my sister didn't get involved with this, but I told her one day, I said, you don't have to get in this to try it. And she said, well, how did I try? I said, do you know anybody who's looking to make an income? And she mentioned a nurse that she knew. And so she gave me a name. And I called the person up. They said, yeah, we'll see it. I showed it to them. They got involved. And I started to build this thing. And a year went by. And after a year, I told my sister one day, she was off from work. And I said, hey, you want to go to dinner with me? And I want to show you something. And so we go to dinner, grab a bite to eat. And then I take her to a meeting. There's 150 people in the house. And I do a meeting. I do a quick presentation for actually back then, a quick presentation was about an hour and 15 minutes, hour and a half. And as we're driving home, she said, that's a great group of people. You got, that's just amazing that your business is growing like that. I said, Leslie, that's not my group. That's your group. And she said, what? I said, yeah, you're still in. And these people, you led me this couple and that couple. And I said, this is all your team. And she introduced me to her boyfriend, who's a doctor. She's a nurse. And she said, you know what? I'm dating this guy. Let's talk to him. And Gerald was a guy who, he was a doctor because his dad was a doctor, but he's a labor and delivery doctor. And so he wore, back in the day, he wore a pager on his hip. And whenever that pager went off, he had to stop everything and go and deliver a baby. And so he had to go. They couldn't go on vacation together.
Like a
They could
choke chain.
like a choke chain. They
Yeah.
and he had to be within a certain distance of the hospital. They'd go to a movie and have to drive two cars. And if it went off, he'd have to go. And his whole life, he said, if I ever thought my life was like this, I would never do this. And my sister said, my brother here at 24 years old and his wife, they're financially free. They just retired last year. And he says, "What?" And that's what got his attention. He said those guys went out there and built something enough to replace their incomes, and that's all they do.
Do you remember those times? I mean, Gerald would call Lance, or no, Lance would call Gerald on the golf course and he'd say, "Hey, I'm at this hole. I need to have this many yards. What club should I use?"
Yeah, I need to go. You suck, and he'd hang up the phone on me.
It was so great.
But Gerald went around and he decided he was going to do this, and he went and built this up, and he told the people of his brother-in-law that retired at 24 years old and the 30-year-old guy with the motorhome. He told the story of the dream. He sold the dream and started to develop a big business. And after about 2.5, 3 years, as a doctor, we surpassed his income as a doctor by double or triple. And one day we decided to have a retirement party for him. And so we could pull him out of his doctor's office. He had his lab coat on. We took it off. He had a tuxedo underneath. There was about 2,000 people out in the parking lot. And he came walking out of the doors his last day as a doctor. And a steamroller came down the hill, and my sister took off the pager, threw it on the pavement, and the steamroller went right over the top of the right over top of the pager. Everybody cheered, balloons, everybody was crying. All the doctors in the whole office, all their faces were pressed against the window, looking to see what was going on. And I will tell you right there, Gerald became a multimillionaire because what happened is there was a couple thousand people that saw the dream, and they said, you know what? If he can do that, I can do that too. And his business blew up. They made $10 or $15 million the next few years with us, and built an amazing team. But I want to tell you the end of this story because it's a little bit tougher. We built that first company, that first platform for 20 years. We're blessed financially. I mean, we made 50 millionaires in that company. It was amazing. It was a fun run. But then we switched over because the company changed. A lot of things that were good for the company that weren't for us. The owners retired. The kids took over. And it was just a different environment. I tell people we didn't quit them. They kind of quit us. But what ended up happening is my brother-in-law, we switched to another company that was a juice company that was really high on antioxidants, a lot of science behind it. And my brother-in-law, rather than telling the story he had told for the last 15 years, he started to put his lab coat back on and started to talk about science and antioxidants and a lot of those sort of things. His business grew to a pretty good size. But what he found is a lot of leaders were looking, going, you know what, I'm not a doctor. I can't do what you do. I don't have the knowledge that you have. And you can put some people in. I can see you're moving the product, but I don't think we can do that anymore. And I tell you that a little bit as a warning, because for all of us that are on here, this call, there's a reason why we got involved. And my question for you is when you're sharing this idea, is there a reason why you got involved? Is that what you're sharing? Is it you're sharing anything you're passionate about, or you're sharing, a product that, hey, this could give you more energy? And I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying there's a couple things. Let me just wrap up with a couple of notes. I'm always going to go for a brand ambassador. I'm always going to go for the brand ambassador. Now, Tracey, a lot of times will lead the products because she'll see some of the health issue and she may go out there and say, hey, this could help you with that. But I'm always going to go for a brand ambassador. I'm going to go for the high. And if they say no to that, then I'll say, well, hey, why don't you try some of these products? I mean, I go for, 3 strikes, I'm out. I go for the brand ambassador, somebody's a leader, and that's what I'm shooting for. If it's no to that, then I'll take it down a little bit and I'll say, hey, why don't you get involved, hold a spot. We'll get some of the products trying. And if they say no to that, then we'll try to make a customer out of it. So the customer is strike 3. Now, a lot of you going out there and you think that the big one is the customer. And again, it's $200 a year if you get a good customer that stays on collagen for a year. But I'm looking for the Eagles. I'm not looking for the chickens, if that makes sense. And so go for the brand ambassador. Next thing, when you're talking to people, spend your time listening to them, find their why. Before you go into, hey, let me show you what I'm doing. The most important question is to say, well, what are you doing with your life? Tell me how things are going. What's going great? What's not going so great for you guys? And just let them talk. They'll tell you what it is they're looking for. So and so there, the kids are in school, and here and we're lonely, and after COVID we don't have a lot of friends. Okay, well, I'm going to talk about the community. I'm going to talk about the group that we've got. We're kind of short financially. She's got to go back to work. Okay, I know I'm going to talk about the income there. Well, we've got a couple of health issues. Okay, we can figure it out, but you got to let them talk. Most of sales is just listening.
Yeah, it's just like on Friday, when we went and showed that couple the plan, and Lance looked at him and goes, so what is it that you do for fun? What do you want out of life? And the guy just went on and on about how he has everything he wants. Everything's awesome. And he's just, and it was funny because I looked at Lance, and Lance just closed up his iPad, and he's like, it sounds like You're doing great. I'm so excited for you. Congratulations. I don't think we have anything to talk about.
Yeah, well, yeah,
I
I
was,
said, you're doing great. You want to live a long time. You're going to want to try these products. So we
yeah,
gave him a couple of samples and we walked out. But
but
honestly,
it's like, well, wait.
yeah, I got to know what they want before I know what to sell them, if that makes sense. And so that's important. So thanks for bringing that one up. There's two more things. One is people look and they say, well, I don't have the lifestyle. I can't talk about being retired. I'm going to tell you right now, you can use this Kim story. You can use Samson's story. There's probably a dozen of us that have made 20, $30 million in the industry. Yeah, there's so many of them. The Rouses, Columbo, Karen, Mark Yule, Rouses. I mean, Samson, there's, a lot of the leaders in Asia have made millions of dollars. Chloe, I mean, you could tell their stories. I didn't tell my story until literally we'd become a millionaire, right? And even then I didn't tell it. It made more sense to talk about other people's story. Because it's easier. Because if you talk about your story too much at the beginning, they're going to say, well, how long you've been involved and how much you make. And that's probably not the thing you want to do. So I talked about this 30-year-old from Utah for the first 3 or 4 years. I said,
we still do.
And we still do. We still do. And so borrow the credibility of others. You've got that. And again, focus on what it is that makes you passionate about three. If you go tell your story and what you're passionate about, again, you want to find out what they've got, but you got to find, for me, this industry, this business brings me alive, and I'm going to tell them that. I want to talk to them about that. I don't want to have, I'm impressed by the leaders that are in part of three that really can talk in detail on all the science and the products and stuff. I love all of that. I can't do that. But I got to promise you that what, if you can sell the dream, if you can sell the why, if you can find out what will move them across the beam, if you can figure out how to solve the problem they've got with what we have, and you can get them across, you're going to build an amazing team. And we are here to build something big. We totally buy into the vision of Kim and Daniel and 300 million in North America. That's going to happen. I mean, we'll look back one day and say, God, I can't believe we shot so low. That's going to happen, but it's going to happen by building leaders. Weeding through the chicken to spend our time looking for the eagles. I know they're out there. And again, don't switch what you're doing. Check with your support team before you switch anything up in a major way. But go out there. You're looking for the leaders out there. You want to have a Christine in your group. You want to have a Columbo and Karen group. You want to have a Cindy Maddox and all these leaders out there. That's what you're looking for. And you're going to get them the best if you talk about what makes you come alive. So with that, we appreciate you guys. Thank you very much. We enjoyed the time with you. God bless and have a fantastic week, everybody. Take care.